As you know, I often repeat that because sometimes Facebook or something else down the line cuts off the first few things I say. So I'll repeat that it's Tuesday and it's June the 23rd. So as I'm talking to you, Denise is downstairs and she is on the computer playing some sort of game with our granddaughter, the little granddaughter. And I guess in our family it's sort of commonly accepted I don't like playing games, or at least I don't like playing board games. I don't know, they either rely on luck or they seem to encourage meanness. And there's one I particularly don't like. I can't remember its name. Denise could tell you, but I remember that we went to visit a couple one time playing this card game, and by the end of the evening I think everybody was ready to kill each other. But I'm sure there are some good games out there. So now we have one that I want to talk to you about today. I'm going to reach down and get it and show it to you. Here it is. I don't know if you can see what it says, but it's called the Worst Case Scenario Survival Game. And this game has in it a number of cards, and each of them it poses a question, and then it gives you some answers. So I picked out some cards at random here. There's 4. I picked out 4 out of 200, and there's things on both sides. But Eric, this one says how to remove an embedded fish hook from your skin. Yeah, well, that would be pretty well a worst case scenario. I have been around people that have I almost stood too close to somebody casting, and instead of the hook going out there with the bait, it's come back towards me. And so this is probably good to know. Here's another critical one: how to recognize poisonous fish. I'm not going to read you the answers. You'll have to buy the game or come and see me. Of course, we've got all these memorized now. This one's interesting because I'm not sure it's a worst case. Or maybe it is if you're with the guy that has the problem. It says how to prevent flatulence. So ladies, maybe some of you want to find out the answer to that one. Or how to jump from a bridge into a river. At first thoughts that sounds pretty simple, but I'm sure, no, there's 3 options here, and I'm not going to read them to you. But as I was thinking about that and games and where we're at today, I was thinking, I'm sure if I went through this deck of cards, I'm sure there are some in there somewhere that says, what do you do if you're caught in a world pandemic? Or what do you do if you end up in the middle of a crowd of rowdy people? I imagine there's some of those around today. I'm not going to amplify on that. I'll just leave it be. Some of you know what I'm talking about. And then, what do you do if you're caught in a fire? It's almost as though right now somebody's gone through this box and they've sorted out a bunch of these things and dumped them in our lap and said, okay, that's the real life that you're in, and that's where we're at. And I know that despite our teaching and all the rest of it, there is some perception on the part of Christians that we have some sort of exemption card. I don't know if there's one in this game, but I know a lot of games, you can play a special card and it gets you out of jail, or it does something or other. And it's almost like a lot of Christians believe that we as Christians have a get out of jail free card. They believe that perhaps bad things shouldn't happen to us at all. And when they do, when those things come along in life, they're kind of shocked, Well, how come? I paid my insurance. I went to church. I paid my insurance. I gave in the offering. I've been kind to my neighbors. And so, God, why is this happening to me? Isn't God supposed to watch out, and doesn't He protect those that he loves. And I think a lot of us are, that's where some of us are right now. You know, I think it's true that we are facing a lot of unknowns. I've told you before that the verse that I've come to quote a lot recently is 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So I don't want to live in fear, but I want to live in power and in love and in a sound mind. And you know, I've told you that sound mind part, if you go look, it's translated in many other versions, and he's given us common sense. So guess what? We're not living in fear. We're dealing with everything that is happening, and but I still hear the voices of those who cry out to the Lord and say, Lord, don't you care that we're perishing? And you know, that made me think back to the phrase that time, you know when it was talked about. It was when the disciples got in the boat with the master and they went across the Sea of Galilee. And we read it a long time ago in Matthew 8. And so you remember the story, right? The story was that the Lord got into the boat. He was the one whose idea it was to go to the other side. He got in the boat, the disciples got in with him, and what did he do? He was at rest and he went to sleep. And you know the story, but while he was asleep, the storm came up. It was a great tempest, it says, and the waves came crashing in, and what's he doing? He's resting. And what are they doing? They are just they're beyond nervous, and they come to him in the middle of that and say, Lord, don't you care? Save us, we're perishing. And what did he do? I've always thought it's interesting. He didn't get up and rebuke them, but he did ask them. He said, so what's your problem? Why are you fearful? Oh, ye of little faith. And so it's always been an encouragement to me that when he woke up, he didn't rebuke the disciples. He asked them why they didn't have much fear, or why they didn't have much faith. But who did he rebuke, or what did he rebuke? He rebuked the wind and the waves and the sea. And it says, and there was a great calm. So I think it's interesting that when the Lord got in the boat, the question obviously for you and for me is, did he know there was going to be a storm? And the answer is absolutely. He knew there was going to be a storm. And despite the fact there was going to be a storm, what did he do? He went and had a rest. And did he know what the disciples were going to do? Yeah, he did. He knew exactly what the disciples were going to do. So let's recap. The Lord put them in a situation where their faith would be really tested and really tried. Their reaction was, Lord, help us. Where's the cards? Let me find out what do you do when you... Oh, I can't read these cards. I'm going to get sidetracked. But I want you to know that no matter what happens right now, the Lord is in the boat. And, sometimes we cry and sometimes we ask God, what's going on? I don't understand it. And the reality is sometimes it seems like the Lord's not answering. Seems like he's asleep. And, maybe you've asked those kinds of questions. You've asked the questions, Lord, why don't you heal me? Lord, why am I going through this financial problem? Lord, why have my friends deserted me? Why is it that I've run out of money? Lord, don't you care that, you can complete the sentence? Because we've all asked the questions. But guess what? What's the Lord doing? Sometimes we think the heavens are as brass and we're there crying out to God and all that we hear is nothing. But guess what? He's in the boat with us. And if he's in the boat, then what have we got to do? What have we got to fear? He says, why are you fearful? Don't you have any faith? So I don't know when it's going to happen, but I know at some point Jesus is going to stand up and he's going to say, peace, be still. And then all of the questions disappear. And then I'm sure the disciples, in retrospect, felt a little foolish because the Master was in the boat. They knew that he could handle any situation. They'd been with him when he even raised the dead. So today, I don't think we're in the middle of, what was it called? The worst case scenario. But sometimes it may feel that way. I just want to remind you that the Lord is in the boat. And so what do we have to be fearful about? The Lord knows that the storm is here. He knew it was coming. He knows how long it's going to last. There's been no emergency meeting in heaven to come up with last-minute plans in the light of the coronavirus or civil unrest or anything else. These things that are coming along, they're not a mistake or a trick. God knew they were coming, and yet here he is with us in the boat, and he's at peace, and I pray today you will be too. So that's my thought for the day. So if you want answers to some of these questions, give me a shout and I'll tell you. But there is a special card that we can play. All of these answers don't mean anything because we have a card that says yes, but we know the master of the storm, and he's going to say, peace be still. So today, I pray that peace is your portion. I pray that no matter what you're going through, no matter what questions you have, just be assured the Lord's with you. He's in control. And you're going to have a great testimony very soon. Sure love you all. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.